Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode of the Team Inkfinity podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana. And today we have one of our most recurring guests now at this point, Daniel. So thank you for coming back as always.
Excited to be here as always.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna see if you can throw a couple punches here, because today is the first, what I would consider the new era of tier lists. We're, I would say, super famous for our tier list takes. So we're gonna see if you can hold your own here in these heated arguments or not.
I've got everything locked and loaded. I'm ready to go.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good. But yeah. So it should be a fun one. We're going to actually this is a little bit of a niche one, a little bit of not though, because I think it has a lot of debates with it. We're actually ranking like the complete set of legendaries. So like as a holistic set from like set one, like how do those legendaries like hold up? Set two, like how do all of the legendaries from set two hold up, and so forth? Because you know some of them have hits. Some of them, it's like, we have these legendary cards that don't mean anything, and it makes the value of the set basically really hard to justify. And then you have a legendary that's really awesome and nobody can find it, and it's $75. And so, yeah, there's a lot of hit or miss between some of these sets. So it'll be interesting to walk back through them all.
I've made my tier list based off of card art, so
That's
should be good.
fine. I mean, that's the crazy thing about this is there's really no like set in stone criteria for how we're doing this. We kind of just wing it,
Yeah,
which makes it even better because you could be ranking it off of one thing and I could be ranking off another, and then who knows? But
affordability is the other thing I might
that
have
is
ranked it on. So
that is a good one, because the thing that goes synonymous together is affordability and good legendaries. Like those are very coincide a lot, and so I expect that to be a really important factor going into this for sure.
yep,
But anyways,
very
yeah,
cool. Hey, wait, hold on a second before we get into that. Can I like hijack and just take
yeah,
over?
yeah.
You need to do card of the week. What's your card of the week?
That's a great segue. Yeah, so let me pull it up here real quick. It's Moana, the one I think is like taking the world by storm this past week or so. Moana, the Island Explorer, is a 4 cost inkable ruby, just uncommon card with a 4/3 stat line and has evasive. And then Quest for One has the ability that says whenever this character challenges another character, uh, another character of yours gets +3 strength this turn. That's a lot of when this character challenges another character gets another character. Anyways, basically what it says is if this character challenges another character, then you can buff the strength of one of your others on board to then help in your challenges. And so this one has seen a ton of play recently because there was the Amethyst Emerald Diablo deck that was kind of running rampant towards the end, or probably not rampant, but it was starting to see a lot of play during the end of the Hiram reign. And then after the Hiram ban, I would say that was like the first one to like automatically shoot off and just like go super evasive. And so people started trying to figure out other ways to like really deal with evasives, and the Peter Pan character, Shadowfinder, that gives all your evasive characters rush. They started to see tons and tons and tons of play. And so this Moana card with a really solid stat line just gives you tons and tons of value, especially if you have, the 1-drop Diablo that has, the 0/1 stat line and replaces itself. Buff the strength of that, kind of like a crab would, but then you get the card off of it, you get it rush this in, the turn is played. And so it's just it's seen a ton of play, and it's just given a lot of new life to, I think, Ruby Amethyst, and kind of helped reshape within the archetype with that Peter Pan character.
Yeah, and in fact, it's somewhat doubling as another version of Merlin Crab, which is
Sure.
kind of a staple since it's been released in a lot of Amethyst decks. Um, I love the fact that she's inkable.
Yep.
Oftentimes, you have these like cards with really cool effects, and they oftentimes come with like the fact that they're uninkable, which makes them really tough to include as an option in a competitive scene. And so this one being inkable, and honestly, kind of a hidden gem. I can't think of a single person that like saw this when it was like released and like immediately figured it would be a playable card.
Yep.
So just kind of cool, and it really is like one of my favorite parts of this game is that each meta, like over time, the evolution of the meta creates opportunities for cards like this to actually become played in a competitive scene.
Yeah, shameless plug for our Discord here. I actually think that you said that in one of the Discord conversations that we were having end of last week, that, within a set specifically, it does seem to shift a lot throughout. I mean, obviously it was a little different this set because of the bans specifically, but even without the bans, you've seen, set after set, it's either like super hyper aggro or super control that like takes off right away because it gets the new tool, and then you have everything in the middle that, I'm on private browsing because that's the only way I can get Dreamborn to work for some reason. But that it shifts a lot throughout the actual set itself. And so I think we've seen that this time too, is that, this was not even taught, like you said, not even talked about, not even, considered. And then the meta starts to, reform itself, and this, pops to the top. And so, as we get closer and closer to set championships, if you are playing Ruby Amethyst or you're playing, some sort of evasives deck, this is definitely one that fits right in because it's a, really strong challenger to have another good, just board presence with your Mauis and whatever else is that, is in there for strictly challenging purposes. But yeah, it's a fun one.
Is her effect mandatory?
Whenever this character challenges another chosen character of yours gets +3 strength this turn. So yeah, I think so. Okay. I mean, it doesn't say you may give another character of yours +3 strength.
I don't know that there's any like reason for that to be like a cause for watch out or anything, but just something that I always like to catch on to. Like Merlin Crab is like a mandatory. You have to give something challenger +3, but it's challenger +3, so it doesn't really matter. And this one's to the end of the turn, but it's just something that I like to
and it does say character of yours. So, there are those scenarios where like you Tremaine or Medusa a Merlin Crab and there's nothing else on their side of the board, so they have to give you the challenger, and then that whatever card that is like can challenge into a location or something crazy, to help like swing that strength turn. But this does just say character of yours, so yeah, I don't think there would ever be a downside to that one. But yeah, again, not the most like flashy card ever, but I think, those are the ones that end up usually having the biggest impact that, come in and, either can catch your opponent by surprise, which we've talked about a little bit recently, or it can just be like a really good, solid role player. And when you have a really solid role player that's inkable, it, ends up being a very strong contender for a good card.
I am very proud of you for pitching a Ruby card. And have you ever played Ruby Amethyst?
Yeah, I actually the very beginning of last set, I tried to play it. I was trying to play like the Jim Hawkins stuff. I was trying to with Island I pulled from the sea and Jim Hawkins, and I was trying to make all that work. But I guess they want all of that to be, more of the Speedway deck than Ruby Amethyst locations. But I just feel like there's something there still. Like, not to get on like a complete tangent, but like Jim Hawkins has to be completely underutilized. Like, there's no way that you have a card that's like an Oswald that just pulls out another card for free guaranteed if you have it in your hand and doesn't have a ton of value behind it. I don't know why he doesn't get played. I guess it's just, I don't know. I genuinely I think he's underutilized, but anyways.
So you said you started playing at the beginning of the set, 6 meta? So you were about three releases late on playing Jim Hawkins, so that was good. Fun fact, so I've played Jim Hawkins in
oh yeah, you beat me with Jim Hawkins in set champs.
A non-zero number of set champs. And I actually did not realize until very recently that the effects of Jim Hawkins are actually like separated into 2 separate bullets. And so I always thought it was just as you play him, you can play a location and move him to that location for free. What I did not realize is that if he is on the board already and you play a location, he can jump to that location for free. It doesn't have to be, sequenced up on play. And so from a speedway standpoint, he's super, super beneficial, because if you've got your starting line on the board, you can move him to starting line for free because there's no move costs. You can play finish line, and then he can jump from starting line to finish line on the same turn, which is also very cool. Yeah. Are you opening up like a bag of chips or something? You got
crinkling over there? It's just like, I mean, there's stuff on, I mean, you're the only one hearing that, luckily.
Are you opening a pack? Are we just trying to pull one now?
I'm a fiddler. It's literally just a pack of sleeves. I just fiddle and I can't help it. Jim Hawkins. Yes.
Apologies, everybody.
Get us back on track here. Okay. So before we jump to the main topic, we do have to talk about one other thing. I know it's like late in the timeline of this, but one of our team members is an LGS owner, and they are having a massive tournament next weekend. I think it's April 29th. Is that correct? Or is it April 26th?
No, it's 26.
It's 26th, yeah. April 26th. And the first place prize is a PSA 10 Elsa. It's the Lucky Llama Invitational. So if you want to look it up, you can look up Sharp Gaming, or you can look up Lucky Llama Invitational on Melee. The registration is through Melee. So you can do everything on there, get all the info, get all the location details, all the timing, and all that sort of stuff. Last I looked, it was at like 60 players, and so it's getting up there and in the turnout for it. And so yeah, it should be an exciting one for sure. What are your thoughts on?
And if you
go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you can't make it out, there will be live stream as well. So
yes,
I believe it'll be on Twitch, but it might be YouTube. Either way, be sure to check that out. There will be some well-known commentators on there who you will recognize if you've watched any Lorcana. And we are excited. Yep.
Like worlds qualified Mo Shamlin.
just to name drop one, but other well-known players too, for sure. Yeah, I'm eager to see. This is one of the bigger tournaments post ban list announcement, and I'm eager to see how it plays out. Usually, our local meta is very light on Ruby Sapphire, and this isn't technically like our local scene per se, because it is a little bit further away from our core set champs that are usually alluded to on this podcast. But I know there's people coming in from out of town, and so I'm curious to see how they kind of impact the meta share and the colors that are played. But it should be a pretty competitive scene, and I think you're right. It's about 60 something the last I checked earlier today.
Yeah, I that is a good point to make, because I think that our like local meta, like it does feel very much like a local tournament, and so like the preparations for it have been very much like the thought process of what if we're who's the normal people that you expect, what do they normally bring and that sort of thing. But yeah, our locals cap out at, I don't know, probably 34, 36 ish at the biggest like set champs / win a cases or whatever, and we're already about double that. And I imagine by the time that it does finish registration when the tournament starts, that it will be well over double, if not close to 2.5 times. And so there will definitely be a lot of outsiders, and there will definitely be a lot of new faces that we're not used to seeing. And so to your point, like there very well could be a lot of decks that we're not used or accustomed to getting in the local scene, which is exciting. So
yeah, should be fun. Hopefully, if you're close by and you can make it, it will be a very fun room. I think they're going to have a vendor as well on site, but I'm eager to determine, or to kind of learn the outcome of that, and really always it's fun to see how we stack up against others collectively.
Yep, I'll go ahead and make my prediction now. Shout out Cody. I'm predicting Cody. I'm predicting a Cody win here for 2 reasons.
Wow, you're singling him out too. Not even just.
But see, the crazy thing is like there's no pressure, because he's not going to watch this, and so I want it on record. So like after the fact, I can say I predicted you to win, and he'll be like, "No, you didn't." I'll be like, "Well, go watch the podcast that you never watch." But secondarily, I think we're in a Ruby heavy meta. Cody usually performs really good in a Ruby heavy meta, and secondarily, he is a known Elsa Spirit of Winter player, and so he has all of the incentives in the world to play really well, and has already said if he wins, he's going to crack it and play with it. And so that's pretty crazy for someone to do. Granted, I have done that. I bought a couple ballroom sensations and cracked them open to play, but they were PSA 9s. They were not PSA 10s, and it's not the most expensive PSA 10 from a set enchanted that you can have. So yes, Cody is a little on the psycho side for that one, but like I said, he's going to win and he's going to do it, and we're going to have to film it for everyone to see from the team perspective. So
I don't know. I think he does. He's lost his shoulder companion, so I don't know that he.
I don't know if we ever talked about that.
Guide his decisions.
Unfortunately, for those who watched Cody on the continental stream, He was on 2 different rounds, I think, and he had the little Remy that you get, like in the parks, with a little like magnet on his shoulder.
Yep.
And unfortunately, one of his puppies ate Remy when he returned home. So Remy is no longer with us. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's the Elsas that give the Remy the power, not the other way around. I guess we'll find out this weekend. Okay.
Well, if you remember last time this happened, his refrigerator in his room.
No,
Internet,
see,
I
you're
guess.
the one. I
But
actually took the refrigerator
you've got
off.
me. Solo
I,
time. So finishing the story, Cody has a Remy companion shoulder that his dog, I believe, got to. So
yeah.
Next time he is able to get a replacement Remy, I'm sure that will help him compete
True.
in Lorcan tournaments.
Um,
So that was all.
if you're still with us, there was some technical difficulties. We chopped some of that out, but we're back in it. So we're jumping into the main topic now. Quick refresher. This is ranking each of the sets. So set 1 through 7, strictly based on their overall viability of their entire legendary set. So like set 1, we're going to start with, we're going to go through all of the legendary cards from the set quite briefly, because if we don't, this will be a 4.5 hour podcast and nobody has time for that. So I'm going to talk about just the overall viability of the legendaries. We're going to, put them in the tier, throw them in the tier list and rank them all, and then go from there. So with that said, let's jump
I think
into
people
it.
do have time for a 4.5 hour podcast, by the way. There's a lot of hours on the road commuting to work, and I think that would be much appreciated if we actually deep dive.
All right, let me crack a Red Bull real quick, and we'll stay up till 1 a.m. just rolling through this and just chop it into three episodes for the entire week. Do an hour and a half a week or hour and a half a day. No, seriously. Okay, so set 1 is still one of the goats in my opinion. It's just off the top, you have Hades is still insanely played today. You have Rapunzel, who I think is probably the strongest Amber card in the game still. You have Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. You have Elsa Spirit of Winter. You have Gantu. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, Gantu is like the one that pulls it down for sure. But yeah, I think this is definitely one of the strongest ones. I don't know if it's necessarily the strongest, but I definitely have it in my top 2 or 3 and is one of the most consistent set after set for sure.
I also have it actually have it in my top spot still. The way that I looked at it, I actually took the approach of, what's the likelihood that I'm going to open up a legendary and be disappointed? And this was like the best performing pack for that. So I'd put it S, but I mean, you're controlling where the box goes. So
I don't know. I just, it's like, if we're, I don't, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bell curve for, like the distribution of how we're doing this stuff. But like I said, I don't know if this is like my best one. But it's definitely up there. As far as like value wise goes, it's definitely one of the best value wise ones. And to your point, like if you're opening one and you're not disappointed, is some of that nostalgia because like Surfer Stitch, like that's not super played anymore, or if at all. But like if I would open a Surfer Stitch, I'd be like, cool. I wouldn't be disappointed with that one. So I don't know. Is that just like some nostalgia base too?
I mean, for sure. But if I'm talking to a new player and they're asking me which pack to open up, pricing aside from like the pack price standpoint, like on the secondary market, unless you can find set 1 in retail stores still, which I've heard rumors that some people are. But if you're just looking at like individual packs, I'm for sure pointing them to set 1, because if you open up a legendary in set 1 and you're a brand new player, it's probably going to be something that is playable in most color combinations. And if you don't open up a legendary, there's very high likelihood you're getting at least some more playable rares and supers that are still meta relevant.
I will say,
but this is a legendary ranking. I know I'm making it a broader thing, but set 1 legendaries for sure to me are still like the top of any pack.
I will say I probably opened more Gantus and Takas than anything else, and so the distribution of that.
I've opened so many beasts. Foil too. Foil beasts. I've opened a foil Spirit of Winter, not enchanted. But the beast, man, I opened so many
What's his sub? Is it no Relentless? Is the
It's not Relentless. It's
Wolfsbane? That's right. Nobody ever remembers this one. The one it's Beast has multiple legendaries, and so it's you don't ever remember that one. But okay, well yeah, we'll stick that one at S for sure. I think that is a really solid place to start.
Good spot
one.
for it.
Okay, moving on to Rise of the Floodborn here. This one is very weird because there are some very strong cards that have been staples throughout time that are like so strong that people have just like teched against them. And then there are some like really stinkers as well. So like Mufasa, for instance, has its like own little subculture of players that are very dedicated Mufasa players. Mufasa has, shown to be a really strong powerhouse. It won the first DLC in NA. And so that there's nothing to, you can't forget about that. And then obviously Beast Tragic Hero was for the longest time the most expensive card in the game. Scar, Vicious Cheater, on and off has seen a ton of play, and most recently from the Vicious Cheater himself in Melbourne. And so, come on, that was a good one. Like I need it.
But I need the soundboard for that. Where's the cricket emoji at?
That's fine.
Actually, I'm pretty sure Moyen just played Star recently in the big tournament. Maybe I'm mistaken on that. But
you might be right, actually. So, I think he did, but yeah, I think it's an interesting one. No, I think overall this one's more. When Floodborn came out, we were all. I think the vast majority of people were like, "This is kind of a dud set. It wasn't very good." Now looking back. It had a banned card. The set was so good, and the bounce package has just continuously shown to have its value. I think this one is very, very much more bottom heavy than it is top heavy. And so, like, while Scar, Beast, and Mufasa are all very good, I think everything else is not like mid, but more like really bad. And so that's, I think, what hurts this one the most is like Donald Duck is really bad. Namari is really bad. Sisu is really bad. Mem Dragon is really bad. Bell Hidden Archer is just like they're all just bad. And so there's no like middle ground where some of these like have some sort of like niche play. It's either like, oh, this is a really, really good card, or this is just, is not going to ever see play ever. And so I think from that, its overall viability on this one gets hurt. I don't know. Is like C too low? Like, is that crazy?
That's exactly where I had it. Okay. So I'm not disagreeing with you there.
We're
my point on this set was actually going to be, this is like one of the few packs where I'm actually looking for like the rare slot more like value in foils than like any of the other stuff. Like I want the Merlin and the Mem package.
Yeah, your bounce package slot. Foils are going to carry the pack, or you're going to carry your pack values for sure, unless you're getting Beast Tragic Hero foil. Used to be
Hiram, but can't do that anymore. So I mean, you still can. Honestly, a foil Hiram is probably worth more than some of those legendaries.
Probably still is.
Yeah, I think this set definitely has good cards, like you mentioned, but not from a legendary standpoint. There's not enough of them, and when you're only looking at like 2 or 3 potential that you want, it's not really going to be as strong as some of the other sets.
Yep, and even then, I think they're more niche than not, and they're not just like uber playable legendaries like your Rapunzels or your Elsas or whatever it is from set 1. So, okay, moving on into the Inklands. So set 3, this is definitely one of the more top ones in my opinion. So, starting off the bat here, just like looking at the list at least that we have on the screen, Ursula, Deceiver of All, I mean, continues to just have insane value and continues to be one of those targets that when it hits the board, if you don't deal with it, the tides of the game can turn really quickly. So that's a really important one. We've also got Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, continues to just be a powerhouse of a card as well. Lucky Dime, nothing else really needs to be said about Lucky Dime aside from that came from the set, and it's one of the 2 now non-character legendary cards in the game, and so that's pretty interesting to come from this set. Kita has seen a ton of play, in the past with, some aggressive decks, most significantly with the Under the Sea decks, which you are very familiar with.
Shout out.
And then lastly, I think we can't stop without mentioning the Jafar Striking Illusionist, which is the legendary that every time you draw a card when he's exerted, you gain a lore. Obviously, that's pretty significant as well because it's never been like super meta, but it's obviously again one of those that like if you can't deal with it quick, then it can turn the tide of the game really fast. So this is definitely towards the top side of my list. I don't know if it's like the highest, but it's definitely towards the top.
I hate that we're like still lockstep on this, but this is my second highest. You didn't. I don't think you even mentioned Jim Hawkins just now, which maybe you're just retired of the
No,
conversation.
we already had that conversation. I didn't want to just go back into
Whatever.
it. So
Perdita will always be something I want to work. Wish she was inkable. Grandma Tala, we have been kind of tinkering with the Floodborn Grandma Tala as well. So I have it as my second highest in the A tier box. Fun fact, the very first box of Inked Ones that I opened was one of the boxes that was a little shy on legendaries.
That's right.
And the only legendary I pulled was foil because that was the only way I was going to pull one in that box. And it was a lucky dime, which at the time was not a lucky pull because nobody was really playing it. I still have that foil lucky dime, and I'm glad I got it. But man, it would have been nice to get a few of these other legendaries because they're all cards I like.
They're out, yeah. I think. Oh, again, if we're like looking at the overall set, it has a couple like really, really, really big heavy hitters, and then it has a couple that are like really solid cards, and they can see play and they can fit in like a Perdita or a Jim Hawkins, and then they have a few ones that are a little underwhelming, like it'll always be. But it's not like set 2 where it's like we have a couple good ones and then everything else is just like really a snoozer. And so yeah, I tend to agree on that one that it is very strong overall and has a lot of merit to it. And then you have some of the best cards in the game with your Ursula. But okay, now you're getting.
We got to disagree at some point.
Well,
getting uncomfortable.
If that was your first and second, so set 4, I think we're going to disagree a little bit at least on this one because this one is very interesting as well. So if we go into Ursula's Return, we've got Sisu. I think everybody is more or less done with Sisu at this point and want Sisu to go away. Which I guess the thought was that Hiram dying will kind of get rid of Sisu to some degree. But then, DKP went and won a tournament with 4 Sisu, 4 B prep and just said, no, it's actually, we're just like lean more into it now. But yeah, so we got Sisu. Has anybody heard of Diablo? Because we also have Diablo from this set. On top of that, we have Ursula. What is this? Or what's the Ursula subtext on this one? I can never remember. Sea Witch Queen, of course. We have Ursula Sea Witch Queen, which was the set champs enchanted from the set. We have a lot of other interesting cards. I think the Mulan is not like the most uber playable ever, but Elite Archer is, I think, one of those scary cards that if you are playing the shift target, it's again one of those like you have to watch out for because Elite Archer comes down and it can be a very big change in tempo for you. Then the Queen Diviner, won a DLC again. We said that with Perdita and Mufasa. So you can't just sly on this one. It also saw a little bit of play this set with some of the item stuff before the Hiram ban. So overall, like you have a couple just like uber meta staples and then a lot of like, hidden gems that have gone in and out of the meta. And so this was like one of my contenders for the best legendary set.
Well, you're wrong.
and that's fine.
I'm going through this. This might be the like highest concentration of legendaries that are enchanted within a single set. I'm trying to think through.
I thought there always was one from each color pair that was legendary. Like Kita's a legendary.
Am I wrong on that?
I think every set, one of the legendaries is an enchanted, or from each color. So like Ursula's an enchanted, Jafar's enchanted. I guess Jim and Hydra aren't, so I guess that is wrong. Kita's enchanted. The Maleficent's enchanted. Mickey's enchanted. So that's at what's 4, 5, 6.
Let's go ahead and cut that from this.
Grammatala's 7. So yeah, 7 of 12 from
All
set
right,
3
fine.
are. So you're
I
already
was
off on
wrong.
that one. Boom roasted.
I
Now we
was
get
wrong
to go
on
with
one
my
thing.
now we get to go with my ranking on this one since you were so wrong on that. But if we're going like playable / sought after enchanteds, I would say Sisu and Diablo are definitely, 2 of the highest ones there for sure. So from that respect, I'll give you points.
Yeah, so I have it right behind set 3 Into the Inklands, mainly because Inklands has so many more playable legendaries. While you rattled off a few of these that had seen play, like in today's meta, I don't see them as frequently, and so for that, I'm kind of docking them because we are recording this podcast in April of 2025.
You don't see King Triton ever see any play? I see that like at least every other game. No,
that explains why your win rate's so high. There you go.
That's a good one actually.
Yeah, see, boom, roasted back at you. I have this as my third highest ranked, in that same kind of A tier with Into the Inklands.
So
but you control all things final ranking on your end.
That's true. So you're gonna have to convince me on this one though. We'll stick on this one for a second. So I think that the mid tier of this one is just as strong as Into the Inklands, but the top end with Sisu and Diablo are better. And so that like takes it over the edge for me to where we've got like this probably being like the second highest in my book. And so I mean, that was a very, I think, weak argument, so I don't feel like that's going to have swayed you at all. But that's where my head's at.
It's kind of bad. I view it more along the lines of like if we're going to let like a single legendary, and you're arguing for 2, but if we're gonna like a single legendary within a pack, like elevate all the other 11 cards in that rarity type within that set, it's not going to be indicative of like the full exercise. And while Sisu and Diablo are really strong individual cards, like they don't make up for Hades or Donald or Piglet or Mickey. Triton, people evidently are trying it, but not to much success. Mulan is a card that like I want to work. It's just
same.
It's not quite doing it.
This is really gonna hurt my case, but I accidentally stepped on a Mickey legendary the other day, and I bent it, and I was like, it doesn't even matter. Like, who cares? Like, that was literally my reaction to it, because it fell off my. I mean, you can see like I have all my stuff back here, and it like fell off, and I was like picking up stuff cleaning, and I didn't realize it that I'd actually stepped on it, and so I was like, oh man, this Mickey legendary, the Musketeer captain for those listening, just it's kind of ruined now, and I was like, who cares? So dang it. Okay, I don't want to talk myself out of it, but I definitely just talked I actually just talked myself out of it. Okay, fine, you win. Inklands is in second place.
That hurts. You've definitely been kind of I guess Cody and Devin's card safety protocols have been rubbing off on you a little bit, because they just throw their enchanteds like loose into their bag, and now you're just like stomping on your cards.
I'm not that bad.
It explains why you have a full package of like card protectors, though, because you're just not putting them on your cards anymore, and so you're just fidgeting with them.
I will say I do need to like I don't know like if you can see the stacks of cards. I don't think you can see them, but I have like 3 stacks of cards. That's literally like my bulk from sets 6 and 7, because I never got like a bulk storage box for them. Like I every time I go to like one of our locals or LGSs for league or whatever, I always forget to get it, and then like I remember the next day, and I'm like, yep, just continues to sit there. So I am very much in a
bulk legendaries and enchanteds. You heard it here first.
Nobody said bulk enchanteds and legendaries. I think that Mickey came out of one of the pack rush packs from like the Valentine's Day event. So I mean, I guess it just hasn't been put up since then. But anyways, okay, getting us back on track here. So set 5, Shimmering Skies. This one's an interesting one too. It's definitely not like towards the top, but there are a lot of interesting cards in here. I will say that. So like Robin Hood Sharpshooter is a very interesting card. I think it's always like played around with to see like how viable we can make it because it's has the potential to be really strong. So anytime you can quest and you can play an action for free, I mean that's just a lot of repeatable value if it doesn't get removed quick. Um, Clarabelle is obviously insanely strong and continues to be so, and one of the best draw engines in the game, especially with Hiram gone now. It's gonna have that potential to get you not one, not two, but 4 or 5 cards if you set up the turn that way. Naveen was one of my favorite cards of the set initially. I think Steel Song is so uninkable that you really have to be like super, super, super careful when you're building your decks with your uninkables because it can just get out of control extremely fast. And so I unfortunately don't really play Naveen that much anymore. And then we've got Arthur, who has been a blue steel kind of one of two of staple for the last, I don't know, 3 to 4 months now. Especially with Hiram gone now and getting back into more of a wheel type build. He usually fits really strong in that. And then last but not least of the notable ones would be Mufasa, which I think we all were like, okay, the sky's falling. Mufasa is insanely busted. It's going to completely shape the meta. And then again, it being uninkable, I think has really hurt it, and it hasn't seen a ton of play at all. And so like from an interesting perspective, I think this is the top one, but that's definitely not the criteria we're going off of. And so I think this one's just like really mid. I don't think there's anything like special about this one at all.
I've like teetered now as you've been talking through it because I'm trying to figure out if I'm being too harsh. I had this as like my lowest ranked set, even though I really like a lot of the chances in here. And so I'm going back through it and trying to figure out like do I put this a little bit higher than I previously had it, but it still doesn't feel like that strong compared to some of the other like legendary collections that we have.
No,
So
it's definitely on the lower side. I just don't think it's the. What did we put? We said. I mean, it's definitely better than Floodborne, right? Like we're not Floodborne levels, are we?
yeah, I mean that's probably fair. I had it neck and neck with Floodborne, so you can put it slightly above Floodborne. And like where I'm teetering is I actually really like a lot of the legendaries here.
Yeah,
They're just haven't been able to figure out how to make them good.
yeah,
And part of the
I
problem is
agree.
because they're all uninkable. Like we've got the only one that's seen play and like consistent like good
Clarabelle.
like top performing decks is Clarabelle. When people have tried to run Prince Naveen, Anna, Robin Hood, Mufasa, Author, they're not working, and part of it I think is because they're uninkable.
I agree.
So I really want the Merlin to work. We were all hyped about tutoring cards. Thought that would be cool. Like still
See,
haven't
I
gotten
was
that.
really excited about this Jafar, and honestly, I never even said this out loud because the meta kind of shifted so fast. But we started off the set in a massive steel meta, and when you're in a massive steel meta and you don't have a lot of brawls running around, this Jafar, the tyrannical hypnotist that has Challenger +7, that's a 0/7, and opposing characters with 4 cost or less can't challenge. Period. When you're in a steel meta and you need to do a bunch of challenging to remove stuff, like this does seem to have a lot of merit. But we came and went from that really quick, and so it never really had a chance to do. But again, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to your point, and I think there's a world where all of these could potentially work. But the uninkability, we kind of said this at the beginning, like when you're uninkable, like you just have to have a ton of value, and if you're not, then it's just not going to work. And so, I guess it probably is still C tier. Like I don't think it's B. I think it probably is.
Can't go higher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
off of just Clarabelle, I don't think you
definitely can't go
can.
higher than C.
It's
That was why I
unfortunate.
was so down on it. But now that I'm like comparing it to Floodborne, it's definitely better than Floodborne. But maybe Floodborne shouldn't be in C tier. Maybe it should just be
Well,
down in
we
the
can always
dumps.
like recalibrate at the end, so we'll definitely get there.
Is that loud?
Yeah, we can I mean, we make up the rules. Like I said, we can do whatever we want. But
Amazing.
yeah, moving on to set 6 slash Azurite C. This is an interesting one too because again, I think at the beginning of the set there were a lot of cards that people were excited about and a lot of interesting potential. and then it turned out to basically be a one legendary set. So you've got.
Whoa, two.
Are we considering Baymax or Oswald to be the second?
Hades.
Hades, yeah, yeah, okay.
They made one good Hades, and then every other Hades that has come out since it's just gotten
Bad,
completely rough from like
bad.
a design standpoint.
Does Hades have the most legendaries? That like, cause he has the set
That wasn't part of
one.
my homework assignment, so I don't know.
He has the set one. Was there not a was there not a second one before this? Yeah, he does. Hades has the most legendaries. That's crazy. He's the only one with 3.
Is three the most? Is three the
Yeah,
most?
I think so.
Are you sure?
What else would we be missing here? Elsa's got 1. Rapunzel's got 1. Belle's got 2. Beast has. Wait, does Beast have 3 or does Beast just have 2? No, Beast has 3. Okay, Beast has 3 as well. Okay, so I guess that's Beast and Hades are tied for first with the most. Would have never thought that one, or would haven't really thought about it, I guess. But yeah, Beast and Hades.
Donald
Donald has what, 2?
Donald has 4.
Donald has 4. He's not. We don't have a chapter 1. We've got chapter 2. We've got the Pie Slinger. So there's 2, 3. I counted that with Pie Slinger. Where's the other? Where's the 4th Donald? Is it?
Mitty has 4 as well.
Okay, what? Okay, forget it. Oh, Donald does. Okay, forget it. Whatever. I'm way off track and I lost all credibility.
And Lucky Dime has at least 10, right? Because there's 10 cents in a dime.
7. It costs 7. But no. So when this one came out, I think just like on paper, there was a very high amount of really, really interesting cards. Like this Wreck-It Ralph, for instance, that's the first one on the list. Like anytime you can quest, banish something that your opponent has, either an item or a location for free and get lore from it, that's like a super enticing paradigm, right? It's like that's something that you definitely want to be doing. But it's uninkable. It's back in that same, kind of trap that we just talked about in the last set. Then you have Simba, who I always call Mufasa, and the Amber one that readies all your stuff. I think this is one of those that like has seen play but doesn't have a ton of viability. But it's really strong. Maui Shark, obviously one of the strongest cards in the game, continues to be that good. Tiana and the Simba kind of like more or less, like fill the same role, and so it was kind of weird for them to come out together. John Silver's just really big and really expensive and not that great. Hades is terrible. Hercules is terrible. I really wanted this Jasmine to work, but it just isn't very good either. Oswald saw about 4 minutes of fame and then died off again. What? 4 minutes is fair, right?
There's a whole collection of us who have been trying to make Oswald work for months now.
Trying. Yeah. You making my argument for me this time.
We can be famous without it being competitive.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I guess it saw its heyday where its price spiked, and so if that's what we're going off of, then we can take that 2-week window pricing and go off of that.
Honestly, the Fortisphere ban was a pseudo Oswald attack as well.
True,
gotta say,
true.
It hurts very much.
So yeah, I guess were you talking about when I said there was 1? And you said there were more. Were you talking about Baymax or Oswald?
Yeah, I was talking about Oswald. That's what derailed us, the Hades thing. Golly. All right. Yeah, I was talking about Oswald, not the Baymax.
I think Baymax has seen more play than Oswald.
Well, that's because it's inkable, and Oswald isn't.
I think it's just more consistent too. Again,
it's
in
a
the
cool
steel
effect.
meta,
it's not good.
I mean, Kiwi is like its own little, like cult following at this point, and it's definitely, in and out of Kiwi relatively strong. But anyways, from a whole on this one, Shark definitely clears, right? Like that's basically what's propping this up, because everything else, and I'll use your kind of thought process here from a value perspective, is like really low, right? Like I don't know off the top of my head which one would be second. I mean, I imagine it's still Oswald. and then I would say like Baymax and Simba, but both of them are probably $6 or $7 legendaries, and so there's just not a lot of desire from any of this. And I think Hades might be the cheapest legendary of any of them. Again, I don't quote me on that one, but I remember looking at it and Jake and us arguing about this, and I think I got a couple Hades legendaries for under $1. So that's not good for a legendary card.
Is that like your floor mat now? Is that what you're flexing? You just step on legendaries. So
Yeah,
you just pop two?
that's the crazy thing is I got those Hades so that I could just like use them as like the walkway into my office.
New flooring. Yeah. The I don't know that this like collection of legendaries is better than Floodborne, but I do have it ranked slightly higher.
I think on potential, I'm going to look back here at Floodborne real quick. I think on potential alone, like Oswald has a ton of potential. Baymax has a ton of potential. Simba, pretty solid potential. I would even throw Tiana in there with some decent potential. But like none of these cards that are bad on the Floodborne list, I think even like have really any potential.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph, same. I didn't even talk about Yzma. Yzma like definitely had a couple minutes of fame and has like some potential. Anytime you can draw 3 cards, like you have the potential to be good. I mean, it's not on play to draw 3, and so obviously it definitely takes it a step down. But I think the Yzma is decent too. I don't think it's great. Again, I would love this one to be a little bit higher. Like I would love to put this one in, like fill in the B tier here. But I don't think you can do it. I don't think Shark is good enough to like carry the full set. I don't know. Maybe it is B
Shark.
tier. Is
I
that
mean,
crazy to
Shark
say it's B
has
tier?
it. Have you seen what Shark's price is now?
Is it still like 65 or is it?
Yeah, I mean it's around that 60, mid 60s. So
Yeah, I'm throwing this. This might be crazy, but I'm throwing it B tier. Simba has some some like niche viability. You've got the Oswald, which again had like 3 minutes of fame to have a ton of viability. Baymax has some niche viability. So I think between like the niche viability of a couple of these cards and just like the overall like oppression that Shark can put on a game, I think you definitely have to put it B tier. Maybe that's crazy, but
that's kind of where I would have put it. So it's not too crazy unless I'm also crazy. I still think that, as you alluded to, there's cards in there that have potential. They just don't quite have enough tertiary support to like elevate them up.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's what we're waiting to find out. Like
sure.
we could look back at this like tier ranking like 5 sets from now, just like we're doing with like Floodborne, and saying like, oh, these never really worked out. They're not like they've exhausted their potential, and now it's just like it's Beast Tragic Hero, which is also kind of on the downswing.
Very
And
much.
we might have that same impact or same view on Azurite Sea. So I'm fine with it.
Okay. And then last but
Drum roll.
I don't know. I was gonna say last but not least, but I don't know. Maybe it is the least.
Whoa.
Moving on to the most recent set, obviously, the Arcasia's Island. Pre-nerf, this is definitely like one of the better ones, I would say. Post-nerf is a single one of these cards seeing play. And I before, let me preface, I know Aurora has been in a few songs lists. I think that's kind of a meme / bait card in those lists. I don't, I'm not like the ultimate Steel Song expert, but there's just, I don't think any like real true, like, value that you're getting from her ability. There's just, it's so combo-y that if you're setting up for it, that I think you're going to misplay something else somewhere else trying to set up for the combo, I guess is ultimately what I'm getting at. But yeah, she's just not the 5-cost singer I would want in my deck alongside Ariel. But Donald, very memey. Well, I don't know. Is it crazy to say like the Return of Hercules is, God, I got to stop doing that. Is like the best legendary right now. I mean, I guess Tamatoa still sees play, so that's probably
Don't hit on Tamatoa. It's still a very good card. It's
crazy.
just like now's the time to get it. Honestly, it's kind of getting like hated on
True.
for post
True.
ban. I think the biggest issue with the collection of legendaries in Arcasia's Island is that the overwhelming majority of them do not have an effect on play.
Oh,
So
that's a good point.
if you look at the Sapphire, the two Sapphire legendaries, they have an effect when they come out. They're very
Yeah.
popular. They were even more popular 2 weeks ago. They but like they have an effect when they come out. Everything else, if I'm not mistaken, everything else has to wait a turn unless it gets like rush or something from a Vitalosphere or
Well, Blue says your
some.
characters of 7 strength or more can't be dealt damage. I mean, that's on play.
Yeah, but I mean, so is Donald, right? Like, but they're not doing anything for
True.
you, and
True.
so and like poor Baloo, like can't be dealt damage, but guess what? We can still get B prepped and everything else that like it's one of those
Yeah.
like, and also it's 7 or more like strength, which is like how many characters are you running with 7 or more strength right now? Like
We're
baseline strength.
we're in an Alice meta. We just don't know it yet. Which I don't know how
So
I don't know how Alice is going to get all of our characters over 7 strength, but it's possible, I
yeah,
suppose.
well, I just don't like to put an overwhelming amount of like when I'm building like a deck, I don't want to put a bunch of reliance on cards that don't have an effect on the play
Agreed.
because they can all be answered, and especially if you're trying to build something that's like relatively combo based, you're essentially like passing initiative every time you play something to your opponent. And with how most of the decks in the meta are built, they're all built to like have some sort of reactionary answer to opponents. So
Yeah.
if you're not getting that benefit when you play it, you're very likely not getting a benefit at all. Uh, so I'm disappointed because like the effects are very cool. They just have to survive a turn, and right now that's very tough to do.
That's actually, God, I'm gonna hype you up again. That's actually just like really good deck building slash, play advice in general. That's one thing that I, as a early TCG gamer in the early, history of this game, I guess, and like sets 1 and 2, I just didn't like fully understand yet. But yeah, anytime that you have something on the play that you're guaranteeing is much stronger than some of these other ones. Like Bagheera, I even started testing around with a little bit to try to protect some of the singers and use as the bodyguard to help deal with, your rewarded Prince Johns and some of the other evasive stuff that was coming out. But it just, yeah, I mean, it's reactionary and it's not strong enough and it's only on your turn. So you have to be ahead, and it just makes it, just too big of a hill to climb to make sure that you're guaranteeing yourself value when you are playing it. And so ultimately, yeah, it does fall flat. And that's, a really good way to kind of sum a lot of these up is that they have cool effects, like Mickey, for instance. I mean, the Mickey, the 1/1 that says during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character for free. Like ultimately, there's a couple ways to like set this up where you can guarantee that yourself that will happen and you will get it. But it's such a hill to climb where it's so combo-y that it doesn't have the consistency to pop off like you need it to. And so while the effects on a lot of these are really cool, not having anything on play is very, very rough, like you said.
Yeah, even that Mickey, like I love characters and cards that like quote unquote cheat out like other things for free. Breaking the rules of the game is like one of the fundamental things that I like to do because
Yeah.
usually that inherently gives you an advantage over your opponent. There's not really a lot of like high costed characters that I really want to play for free because most of them don't have that on the play effect either. So like I think you could drop like a Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, really cool. But like is that really cool when you drop it on turn 3 or 4 because you've gotten your Mickey's effect off, and you're spending your Monstrous Dragon to banish a 3 or 4 drop on the other side of the table? Doesn't really feel necessary when you've got like other things that you could easily play. Also, that means you're playing Ruby Steel, which means you don't have access to a lot of draw, which means that you're reliant upon having these 2 specific cards in play, and your Mickey surviving a turn, and your Monstrous Dragon coming down, and then okay, you're questing for 2. So,
Yeah.
like trying to figure out like you can force things to work and do what you want them to do, but you're not always going to have success with that, even if you force them to work. So there's like always this counterbalance of like, how do you get cards that are good, that do what you want them to do and that also win you games. And right now, the meta is very much shifting and like just play good fundamental cards that don't
That's a very good
necessarily
point.
lose you advantage and maintain the resource battle over the course of the game. Um, like dropping big heavy hitters, even like the new Taka, like most people would probably just ignore it because they can just like go wide and race around it. So
Yeah.
like there's so many things that like as a newer player it's really easy to get like caught up in the shininess of something new that's exciting and fun. And I don't want to discourage that because like that is part of the element of playing the game is to have fun. But you can't approach the game trying to have fun and win all the time in terms of like playing the shiny new toys because it's not always going to end up successful, at least right now. Will this Mickey have its heyday like 3 or 4 sets from now? Potentially, if there's certain cards that come out that are really, really beneficial to cheat out early. But
Okay.
right now, as we say, no.
This one's really tough. So like pre-nerf, I mean, this is definitely A tier, right? Like at least A tier because Tomato and Donald are not Donald, Scrooge are two of the most playable cards in the game. Post nerf, they're still good. They're just not great. And to your point, the rest of everything else is really, really mid, if not bad. And so, man, I'm struggling on this one for sure. It's definitely like
I'm going.
towards the end, but I don't know how far towards the end.
I still don't think you put it below Floodborne or Azurite Sea. I think it has to be above Azurite Sea.
Has to be above Azurite Sea. So we're saying, man, I was thinking like below. Well, below above Azurite Sea, I guess is not that different. Let me
Oh,
look at
I
Azurite Sea
misspoke.
again.
I meant Shimmering, not Azurite. Sorry.
Okay, so we're in the same spot then. So we're saying
Yeah.
like there, and then we move Floodborne. So now that we're kind of done, we can like reevaluate here. So
Force
Floodborne's
bell
definitely
curve,
the
yeah.
worst. So I think we just move Floodborne down a little bit. And then you've got Shimmering Skies, second to worst on your C tier, Azurite Sea, or Arcasia's Island, sorry, then Azurite Sea. Then we get into the like really solid lists being Ursula's Return, Into the Inklands, and First Chapter. Which First Chapter is just, I mean, it clears for sure. Now looking back on it, I had Into the Inklands because of Ursula, Robin Hood, and Lucky Dime initially, but
And Jim Hawkins.
and Jim, man, you're gonna convince me to put it into one. But
It's a good card.
your Rapunzels, your Hades, your Bells. I mean, Mickey doesn't necessarily have any play, the Brave Little Tailor, but it's still like one of those like iconic cards. To your point, like if you open it up, like you're not going to be sad about it. Then you throw in, like your middle tier ones, like your Elsas and your Maleficent Monstrous Dragons, your Rocks or your Stitch Surfers. And I mean, even like the Ursula, like this Ursula, like it saw play in sets 2 and 3, maybe just set 2. But it definitely had like its day in the sun where it saw play.
It was oftentimes like the top end of the like early Blurple decks as well, just because it was like
True.
such a beefy body that like most people couldn't really deal with.
Yeah. And then John Silver saw play a little bit in set 1, and I've even seen it coming back in some like some of the Emerald Amethyst decks, just as like a stall tactic to to do some funky stuff with. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think now that we finished, set 1 definitely still has the best legendary set. There's not, from top to bottom, there's even the bottom ones. I mean, there's the meme of Gantu and Taka, which are obviously not good, but aside from them, I think everything is, has some sort of viability to it.
So, in other words, I'm right. Is that what you were?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that
That's what I heard.
well, I guess there's really no way for me to talk myself into like agreeing that that's the right way to put it and that you're not right. I think that those things have to be the same, unfortunately. So
I
yes,
was just giving you a nice little toss up to use your soundboard and like the cricket sound, and you still missed it.
I'm so bad. I said that before. I said that before we started. I need to get better. People need to, listeners need to like hound me to get better about using the soundboard because it's kind of funny. I mean, it can be fun at times. I don't know. Maybe it's annoying and nobody cares. But so now that this is done, like there are definitely a lot of good sets. There are definitely some sets to be desired. Ultimately, though, I think when we look back at this, there's starting to be a narrative that like opening these packs doesn't have any real value behind it because you never get your return. Even with some of the enchanteds, like there's a decent amount of enchanteds that are in the 30 to 40 to $50 range. And so if you have a box that you're most likely not getting an enchanted, and even if you do get an enchanted, you could get one that's $40. You definitely don't get your money back still. And so it's definitely a delicate balance between like wanting to have a bunch of value for what you're opening, but also not just force all of the good cards into legendary so that it's impossible to build a good deck, or good decks cost $600. And so maybe that is partially like, if I'm not saying we're like 100% right in these rankings, but they are relatively well distributed between like really good sets and have a lot of value to these don't have much value at all. And so I don't know, maybe that's part of the thought process on we want to have a bunch of value in some of them, we don't in others, so that it kind of evens out the value of an overall deck. But I don't know, I just like seeing a little bit more value in the overall like investment of buying some packs and opening them. But anyways,
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I would also say like we're just looking at the legendaries from a rarity standpoint. Like if you add
true.
in supers and rares, like there's supers and rares within some of these sets that are more valuable than 90% of the legendaries within that same set. And so,
Calhoun, strength,
yeah,
bounce package.
even set one like has Fishbone and B Prep that are still super sought after and valuable. And then Tinkerbell is like probably 10x more valuable than either of the steel legendaries in set one.
Tinkerbell,
So,
whole new
and it's
world.
always been that way.
Yeah,
So
true.
like I I would say like from the sense of like packs and value of packs and EV of opening a pack, like pretty much every card game is negative EV to open any packs.
Right.
It definitely skews like throughout the meta, and as cards like fluctuate in price, when you hit Strength of a Raging Fire foils at $125 a piece, like that's going to throw your EV calculations like way out of bounds.
Yeah,
Uh, but like part of it is just like the joy of opening a pack and like not
sure.
knowing what you're going to get. Like that part is intangible. You definitely want to counterbalance it with like at least some element of value to where it's not like you've just tossed all those dollars away and what you found is a Mickey that somebody's just going to walk on and step on. So
I should not have said that. Oh
this is
gosh.
good. I've got material for days now.
That was
Next
that
time your
was
internet cuts out,
that
I'm
was
gonna have
so
just
bad.
a roast.
That was so bad because not only did I ruin my argument, but I just gave you a bunch of, ammo to roast me like you're saying. So, all
And
right.
I won't forget. So yeah, I mean I think like all in all I feel like we're pretty similar in how we've ranked them, which tells me that we're probably about close to where
Yeah,
general market
relatively
probably
accurate.
views these.
But yeah, it's a good. I mean, it's just fun exercise to go through to just kind of see like the progression of some of this stuff. I will say, unfortunately, like if you look at the rankings again, so just I guess for the audio listeners, we have first chapter on S tier. On A tier, we've got Into the Inklands and Ursula's Return. B tier, we have Azurite Sea. C tier, we have Arcasia's Island and Shimmering Skies. And D tier, we have Floodborne. Unfortunately, the more later sets are all more towards the bottom. I mean, Arcasia's Island, that's one of the outliers, I guess, or Azurite Sea, sorry. Um, if, that was just a little bit lower, than like all of the most recent sets would be really far down there, which would be kind of sad. But in general, yeah, I mean, to your point, I think we were pretty close on it. And so that's, got to mean that we're at least, beating down the right path on how these, are viewed overall.
I think from like a game designer standpoint, it's a delicate balance of you don't want to like power creep every single set, right?
Sure.
And like designing cards within a set that can be competitive, but also aren't just like objectively better than the previous cards that have been released is really important, because I don't want all of my set one cards to be obsolete like a year later.
Right.
And like that definitely doesn't feel good. So yeah, I think they've done a really good job. Again, I'll keep going back to like we were just looking at legendary view. So if you look like holistic pack, like and ranked that, we might have a different order of operations than what we have here. But
Fair.
I feel like it's pretty good. Um, I have like a random thought that I don't want to forget before we conclude, if we're about to
Yep, we're
wrap up.
wrapping up. So give us your final thoughts, or it can be a tangent, and then we'll wrap it up from
Well,
there.
no, not tangent. You were sounding off for the audio listeners, so that they could have an idea of where we recapped at, and it just led me to an idea of, and I'm hijacking kind of what you would normally do, but set champs are coming up in just a couple of weeks. This will be, I think, the last set champs on Melee, right?
That's a good point.
So,
I mean, that's a blessing for sure.
So last set champs on Melee. I know a lot of people always have questions on like what should I play. Like any socials, like you see people are always like, what should I play in this meta? If you have like questions, so I'm talking to listeners, not Zach, but if you have like questions of like what to play or like what to expect from a meta, or just anything that you want to hear on next week's podcast, like send it in a Discord, comment on socials, whatever, so that we can kind of gear up the topics to that conversation.
We should put that's a really good comment actually. We should probably
Boom.
Put the like throw out a question in the Discord and throw out a question on social and like try to get some feedback too, so that we can have some good talking points for next week, because that's definitely what I want to focus on, is just the last minute set champs prep going into set champs week. So yeah, that's a great comment actually. See how I said actually right there, like you don't normally have any, but I had to give you a little bit of this back. But no, I think that wraps this one up. This was a good one, minus the little minor technical difficulty that I'm gonna have to go edit out real quick. But yeah, appreciate everybody for listening. Daniel, any final thoughts and sign us off?
No, that's all for now, folks. Or what's the see you real soon. I'm not gonna do it in the Mickey voice, but I haven't shown you guys my Stitch voice yet. We'll have to break that one out one day. But
we'll do a good we'll do a good impersonation episode or something.
But no, thanks as always for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye guys.